Okay, welcome back. Let's get started. So this is a question from November 2022, one of the recent papers, paper 22. Right. So question number 4, it's a good past paper question. So question number 4 says advances in technology have changed how wood is are cut down and transported and used in the manufacture of furniture such as tables, etc. Wood is inelastic in supply. Okay, wood can be supplied in all economic systems. However, public goods are not supplied in a market economic system. Okay. By the way, wood is an elastic supply because it's part of agricultural. It's an agricultural commodity, and we know that wood is comes from trees which cannot be grown. They have a time lag, probably a year or something. And since they cannot be grown so easily, it takes time to grow and harvest, and then the whole process takes place, and that makes the supply of wood inelastic. So it says define inelastic supply. Now remember that for a 2-mark definition, you are not going to write more than 2 lines. 2 lines is the maximum, not more than 2 lines. So inelastic supply refers to how responsive supply is, how responsive quantity supplied is to a change in price. I mean, that's what that's what PES is. But as far as inelastic supply is concerned, you will write that inelastic supply is when the quantity supplied is less sensitive or less responsive relatively to a change in price, right? That's all that you need, right? And the value of PES is less than 1. That's it. So inelastic supply is it's less responsive and less sensitive to a change in price, where the percentage change in quantity supplied is less than the percentage change in price, right? Making it less sensitive, and PES is less than 1. That is it. Nothing more than that. You don't need to write the formula for PES and etc. Right? Question part B says, explain why public goods would not be supplied in a market economic system. Now, this is a good question. So we also need to learn how to manage our time. So, for a 4-mark answer, so see, quantity does not really matters in O-level economics and A-level economics, but yes, you need to sort of also make sure that you are finishing on time. So you should spend more time on your 6 and 8-mark answers. That's what I would suggest. So explain why public goods will not be supplied in a market economic system. There's no need to define what public goods are. I mean, just start off by saying, so one way, instead of just defining it instead and then focusing on what public goods are, you could directly start off by saying that public goods are not supplied in a market economic system since they are non-excludable and non-rivalrous. And because they are non-excludable, you cannot stop anyone from consuming them because they are non-excludable, right? For example, streetlights, and they are non-rivalrous, which means that if someone consumes it, then the benefit or the utility for the other person does not reduces. And because of that, what you will say that in a market economic system, consumers, they work on self-interest, right? Because it's important, as rational consumers work on self-interest. If they have an incentive, they're incentive seekers, right? Whether they are consumers or whether they are firms, they are incentive seekers. They work on incentives. So no consumer would want to buy something, no rational consumer would want to buy something which is consumed by everyone else and no one is paying for it, right? And because because public goods are non-excludable and non-rivalrous, so you can't charge others from it because everyone can use it without actually paying you, right? And that sort of results into the free rider problem. So since rational consumers know that the benefit would be the same for everyone else and they can't sort of exclude anyone else, so they won't end up buying it. Instead, they will wait for others to buy it, right? They would want a free ride. They would want a free ride on someone else's money, right? Which is the free rider problem. Because of the free rider problem, ultimately, no one will end up buying it, and ultimately the government will have to sort of provide it in an economic system. And that is one of the market failures of a free market economic system, that public goods are not provided by the free markets. Because free markets work on incentives. Market works on incentives and profits, right? So if it's profitable for if something is if something is worth buying for the consumers and they can buy and consume it for themselves. For example, in private goods, they can buy and consume it for themselves. If I buy a chocolate, I can buy and consume it for myself, right? I can stop you from buying it as well. So consumers would want to buy chocolates and they would be ready to pay for chocolates. But people won't be really ready to pay for public goods such as street lights because they know that if they buy it, I mean, others will consume it as well, and they can't really charge them for, or they can't say no to the others who are consuming public goods. If you pay for a street light outside your house and you install it, you can't stop your neighbor from using it. The neighbor will equally benefit as you are benefiting, and that's what it makes it non-rivalrous and non-excludable. So you will never be willing to buy a street light and install it outside your house. Maybe you'll think that, my neighbor will do that for me, for him as well as for me. But your neighbor will be thinking the same. So everyone would be thinking the same. Ultimately, no one will buy it. So firms also know that there's no profit in such a market because there's actually no market for it. I mean, there is a market as in there is a demand for it, but that demand is not registered in the market. So technically there's no market for it. So there's a missing market, you can say, right? I mean, there's a market to an extent that yes, there's demand by the consumers, but firms will not be there to supply public goods in a market economic system because it's not profitable for them. Why is it not profitable for them? It's not profitable for them because if they I mean, something is profitable for firms when consumers will buy it, but only one consumer would actually buy it, and then that would benefit tens of other people. So I mean, that's not a worthwhile investment for for private sector firms. Instead, the government provides public goods, and then it makes it probably contracts it out to any particular firm, and then it's the government's job to install public goods and all. So for this, for a 4-mark answer, you need to briefly describe that why public goods are not provided. So the keyword is that public goods are non-excludable and non-rivalrous, and people are not ready to pay for it because you can't stop people from consuming it, right? So I mean, and at the same time, you can't charge additional consumers from consuming public goods. So, and we know that private sector firms work on incentives, they're profit motivated, they work on profit maximization principles. So they will not produce those goods which are not profitable for them because they know that they can't really get a lot of revenue from it, right? So it's not a worthwhile investment for private sector firms to produce and supply public goods. That is what you need to write. So the examiner for a question like this would be looking at keywords such as non-rivalrous, number 2, non-excludable, number 3, the free rider problem, right? And if you go to my videos, if you have bought the micro course, I've explained it clearly, in depth, that why public goods are not provided. Part C. So part C says analyze using a demand and so guys, for a 4-mark answer, you will provide some details, but some details. Okay, you're not supposed to write an entire page for it, right? But that does not also mean that you don't explain it properly, right? It's a 4-mark answer. Now for a 4-mark answer, there's nothing specified to the extent of what you're writing. It's up to you. But obviously, when any student would know that he's done his best and he's done enough, and now it's time to move on. But 3 things are mainly very important. You need to mention about non-excludability, non-rivalrous, and then the fact that there's a free rider problem. And the 4th thing that you need to mention is that firms are profit motivated. They would not provide something that is not profitable for them, or it's not a worthwhile investment for them, right? Analyze using a demand and supply diagram. So these kind of questions do come in the exam because in part C, always there would be an analyze question. At times they will explicitly say that make a demand supply diagram, or maybe make a PPC diagram. It says show the effect on the market for furniture of an increase in the price of goods. So basically, remember that for 6 markers, and if they specifically say that you're supposed to make a demand supply diagram for 6 markers specifically, the 4 marks are for diagram and 2 marks are for explanation, right? So how will you start off this question? You will start off this question by first making a diagram. You will first write down the heading that you need to make a demand supply diagram showing the effect on the market for furniture. So basically you need to show the market for furniture. So you'll write down the heading market for furniture. That's what you'll write, and then you'll make a demand curve and then a supply curve, and then on the x-axis, you write quantity, which is obviously the quantity that is traded. You will not write quantity demanded, or you will not write quantity supplied, because since you're making a demand and a supply diagram, so you're showing quantity demanded and quantity supplied. So you just write quantity, which is obviously the quantity that is being traded in the market. The equilibrium would represent the quantity that is being bought and sold in the market. On the y-axis, you write price, right? So you need to tell that, this is the original equilibrium price for furniture. Well, this is the original equilibrium quantity for furniture. Now, what happens is that since the wood, so basically wood is a raw material for furniture, right? So if wood is getting expensive, so the furniture manufacturers would buy wood at an expensive price, which would drive up the cost of production for them, because the price of raw material would go up. So since the price of raw material would go up, it would drive up the cost of production for furniture manufacturers. And since the cost of production goes up for furniture manufacturers, it would be difficult for them to produce a huge quantity of output, since for each additional unit they make, they now need to, since for each additional furniture they make, this is what you're supposed to write, that for each additional furniture they make, they need to pay extra for it, because they need to incur an extra raw material cost. Firms don't have a lot of money. So what happens is that reduces their willingness and ability to produce the same quantity as they were producing before. And that is graphically represented by an inward shift in supply from S1 to S2, right? So by the way, so what happens is that ultimately the effect of that would be that market prices would rise from P1 to P2, while the quantity of furniture that is being traded in the market goes down from Q1 to Q2, right? So first of all, two things are important. You make a demand supply diagram, then you shift the supply curve to the left. You show the quantity is going down, and you show that the price is going up. So the diagram that I've made is not neat at all, right? You need to make a proper diagram with a proper scale, and don't make small, tiny, micro looking diagrams that look like ants in the paper, right? Make a proper diagram in the exam with a pencil and a scale. So, and then what you need to write is that that since the raw material prices go up and the cost of production goes up, and that reduces supply, which causes an inward shift in your supply curve from S1 to S2. But do explain the fact that why supply is shifting left. So an inward shift in supply is representing the reduced willingness or the less willingness and ability of furniture manufacturers to actually end up producing the same quantity as before, because obviously they will not produce the same quantity as before since the raw material is getting expensive. So, right? And what happens is that since supply goes down, ultimately the subsequent impact of that is that the market prices for the products go up, because obviously firms shift that higher cost on the consumers, so the market prices sort of increases. And then you will say that a new equilibrium settles at E1 from E1 to E2. Now, if you have gone through my micro course, basically I have explained in detail how the equilibrium arrives. So you don't really arrive at an equilibrium overnight, right? It's a process, and initially there's a disequilibrium, and then it reaches an equilibrium. So you really don't need to mention all those details here. You don't need to go into all that depth. You'll be a bit more specific and direct and to the point. But as far as learning is concerned and having knowledge is concerned, you must know that first there is a disequilibrium, and then it moves to an equilibrium. So just let me recap that for you. So if this is demand and this is supply, and let's suppose that you are a furniture manufacturer and you manufacture tables. So there is an inward shift in supply. So let's suppose you were producing 100 units were being demanded and 100 units were being supplied at the price of P1. And now what happens is that your supply goes down from S1 to S2. So if supply goes down from S1 to S2, what happens is that supply falls from 100 to, let's say, 60 units, right? So now this is basically representing a shortage, because 100 units was initially being demanded as well as supplied, and that's why it was an equilibrium, because 100 was demanded and 100 was supplied. But now you're supplying 60 units. So the difference of 40 units is a disequilibrium. If I were to explain it like this, if the demand was 100 and the supply was 100 as well, let's say that the price was $10. Let's assume that the price was $10. So at a price of $10, kindly pay attention here. At a price of $10, the demand was 100, supply was 100. So we were at an equilibrium. Things were really fine in the economy, in the furniture market. Now, what suddenly happened was that wood became expensive. So supply fell to how much? It fell to 60. while demand is 100. So there's a disequilibrium of 40. Now this 40 is representing a shortage. Now how will the shortage be eliminated? Obviously the price mechanism kicks in and the prices start rising automatically in the market. The price rises from, let's say, $10 to $11. At $11, we know that the law of supply would say that, at a higher price, quantity supplied would rise, because we know that when price goes up, quantity supplied goes up as well. So the quantity supplied goes up from 60 to, let's say, 80. No, it's from 60 to, let's say, 70. While if the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down from 100 to, let's say, I don't know, 90, right? But still there is a shortage of 20. And then again, the price rises from 11 to, let's say, 12. If it rises from 11 to 12, the supply again goes up from 70 to 80, while the demand goes down from, let's say, 90 to 80. And now you see that there's an equilibrium again at $12. So the price mechanism, as in the mechanism of price mechanism, simply means the mechanism of how, how demand and supply interact, and how prices are determined, and how quantity demanded and quantity supplied responds to changes in price. So the price mechanism has automatically eliminated the shortage. And basically what's happened here is, if I were to explain this diagrammatically, we know that initially your demand was 100, and the supply was 100 as well, because we can see that, right? Demand and supply both were 100. Now supply fell from 100 to 60, which is shown like over here as well. And this is representing a shortage of 40. Now, as prices would start rising, what would happen is, as prices go up, since this is your supply curve, there's an extension in supply. While at the same time, as prices go up, there's a contraction in supply, until the market reaches a new equilibrium at this point. And at this point, the market price is, what is the market price, by the way, at which the equilibrium has been reached? The market price is basically $12. So at a price of $12, the market reaches an equilibrium of 80. Now, this is the process. Do you need to show this process in the exam? No, you directly show it like this. That you say this is demand, this is supply. Supply falls from S1 to S2. Let's say you want to show the numbers, you can show the numbers. You say that at $10, the quantity was 100. And then the supply falls from S1 to S2. The price goes up from $10 to $12, while the quantity traded goes down from 100 to, let's say, 80. So you can show it like this, but usually students show it from P1 to P2 and from Q1 to Q2. But the reason why I did this was to explain you of how the process actually works, of how this process works, and how you actually conclude to a new equilibrium, right? So you must know this. So you are not supposed to write that down, but you must know this at least, right? So yes, this is a simple diagram that you need to make, as in this was the same diagram that you need to make, simply showing E1 to E2 and simply telling them when supply goes down, the cost goes up. When the cost of production goes up, firms will basically reduce their supply, and then prices ultimately rise in the market from P1 to P2. And then, yes, that's how it works. So this is part C. So let's move on to part D. Part D says, discuss whether or not advances in technology will benefit a country's population. Now remember, let's read the question again. Discuss whether or not. Now remember that whenever these kind of discuss questions usually come whether or not. So they're saying, okay, fine, that there may be a chance that this might happen, then it might not happen, right? So basically, obviously, advances in technology might benefit, while advances in technology might not benefit as well. So for questions, so remember that for discuss questions, you need to evaluate. Now, evaluation means, which is an assessment objective 3, evaluation means counter narrative. Counter narrative means that, you're saying that, okay, fine, technology does benefit a country's population, but it also does not benefit a country's population in so and so circumstances. So it's not that, so you don't make a final argument saying that, yes, technology is beneficial, but you're saying that it might not be beneficial as well because of so and so reasons. So you're counter arguing. So an argument, or you can say, when you're mentioning two sides to an argument, that's what an evaluation is, right? So moving forward, part D says, so how are we supposed to start off this answer? You can start off this answer by saying that, in the recent years or in the recent decade, technological advancement has proved to be, highly beneficial for students, consumers, firms, for so and so reasons, for a lot of reasons. While we've also witnessed some serious problems associated with technology, which will be discussed later on in this answer. You can start off this answer by like this, right? But so there's something that I need to tell you, that I was recently checking an answer where the student talked about how technology is causing how it is causing problems for the students, and how they cheat in their exams, and all of that stuff. While this is not wrong, but then you can't really say all this in an economics answer, because you need to come up with economical reasons, not social reasons. So these are social problems, not economical problems. We need to focus on economical problems, right? So let's see how technology is really benefiting the population. So you could write a lot of points. You could say that technology basically results into productive efficiency for firms, and when productive efficiency for firms goes down, their average cost goes down, and because of that, the cost of production goes down. As in, the average cost of production is going down, the cost of producing a single unit goes down, and that results into higher profit margins for firms, and they end up making more profits. And then if they end up making more profits, this will benefit the government as well, because if they make more profits, they will give more taxes to the government. If they give more taxes to the government can end up spending that money back on the economy. So overall, the society is benefiting because of that. So it's a chain reaction, right? At the same time, firms could use this higher profits to actually end up investing more, hiring more people. If they hire more people, the employment levels would go up, the welfare of the economy would also go up, the incomes of the economy would also go up, and as well as the living standard of the economy would go up as well, right? So you see, there are so many benefits of technological advancement. At the same time, you know because of technology significantly reduces cost, and it cuts a lot of middlemen, because of technology, you can actually you can sell your product directly to the consumer via website, right? So it eliminates a lot of middlemen. Maybe you don't need to go to the retailer, because the retailer will charge his own profit margin. So it significantly reduces a lot of middlemen, and that results into lower prices for consumers. So consumers benefit from lower prices, basically, and that improves consumer welfare. Which is consumer satisfaction. Also remember that when the cost of production goes down, it makes your maybe you are also an exporting nation, and you're exporting these goods, so it would make your exports competitive. So it makes your exports competitive, and exports, so you're able to target international markets as well, and that results into more foreign currency, more foreign exchange coming in your country, and that improves your balance of trade. That would improve your balance of trade as well, right? Also remember that when firms are witnessing higher profits and more incomes, and then employment levels are rising as well, so there's more economic growth. So technology would result into economic growth, right? Because it would allow the firms to expand themselves, and then this economic growth would basically be potential growth, because we know that technological advancement does results into potential growth. And the diagram for potential growth that you can draw in this exam is that you should draw in the exam is that it will shift your long run aggregate supply curve outwards. This is something that you can draw in the exam. It is going to shift your, there's no need to here show that there's no need to make a demand curve here and show an equilibrium. Just say that this is going to shift your long run aggregate supply curve outwards, and it is going to cause potential growth, increasing your full employment level of output. So the full employment level of output goes up. This is known as potential growth. Now, this, guys, can also be shown by an outward shift in your production possibility curve from PPC1 to PPC2, from PPC1 to PPC2. Both are actually representing the same thing. Both are representing that there's economic growth in the economy, because obviously when technology is growing, there's economic growth. So there's potential, because obviously remember that when firms are expanding, ultimately it would result into potential growth. Ultimately, yes, it would result into potential growth in the economy. And remember that potential growth is more sustainable in the economy. That is why it's so much highly encouraged to advance yourself in technology. Technological advancement is so important in this era, because it results into long-term sustainable potential growth in the economy, right? So also remember that because of using more technology, you will also end up improving the quality of your product. Again, this will not only benefit the firms, you can also target international markets this way, and it will also benefit the consumers as well, because they will benefit from better quality products, right? Also remember that technological advancement would sort of result into more international trade and promote more globalization. And maybe because of technology, for example, like we are conducting this class and that's an online class right now, and probably this helps benefit a student who is probably sitting not even in Pakistan, but maybe outside Pakistan, and still attending my class. So technology helps gain access to a lot of, because technology does not have any boundary. Technology can reach anywhere, anytime, right? Because of the internet, because of the power of the internet. You can mention these things in the exam. So, and also like we all, order products online as well, right? So, and technology has allowed us to sort of improve the level of exports and imports, because you can just, a consumer could directly import from any website abroad, right? So again, it's improved. I mean, it has, and overall, because of technological advancement, the global GDP of the entire economies, of all the economies, has actually gone up. In fact, you could say global output has gone up, because let's go 10-15 years back. All of this wasn't possible at that time. Buying online and then importing online from these websites, from Amazon and all, was not possible. But now it is possible, right? You can just order directly from probably Amazon or Walmart, and that's just the beauty of technology. And when all these online stores would expand, they'll hire more people, and then when they hire more people, the employment level goes up, and definitely it has an impact on the GDP. And it's not the GDP that is specific to one economy; it's actually the GDP of all the economies that is being the global GDP of the world economy actually improves, right? You could also mention about the fact that technology, I mean, you could also mention that post covid, the concept of online learning has tremendously gone up. And you could also mention that the realization of how important technology is, and how important and powerful technology can be to not only individual consumers but also to individual firms as well, has made its way through to the people's and the firms' minds. Because yes, post COVID, things had changed. That was the new normal, right? So you could mention this, and it's actually a good thing that you mentioned this, because that's how you look different from the rest. However, technological, but then again, you'll start off with evaluation, right? Assessment objective 3. And then you'll say, however, and this is how you start it. You change your paragraph, and then you say, however, just because technological advancement has a lot of benefits, that does not mean that technological advancement comes without any disadvantages, or it comes without any problems. And at times, if your economy is not really equipped to handle those problems, it could cause a lot of significant problems, right? So we know that technology has also resulted into a lot of unemployment as well. So yes, it increases unemployment. Sorry, it reduces unemployment, but for some people, it increases unemployment too, and that is known as technological unemployment. Technological unemployment, and that's why a lot of people are threatened by artificial intelligence, and because it is going to such as chat GPT and all, because it is going to eat up a lot of jobs, because a lot of people will not be required after that. So it's known as technological unemployment, when technology eats up jobs and people are not required anymore, right? So yes, I mean, at the same time, as far as unemployment is concerned, then unemployment has gone up as well. So don't just write unemployment has gone up. It's known as technological unemployment. It's a specific word associated to it, right? And then the fact that there might be an over dependence. So yes, technology is good, but then over dependence on technology can actually be harmful, because once there is an error in the system, or once technology disrupts your entire production, or your entire system, or your entire business that was so much dependent on technology, might suffer because of that, right? So yes, technology is good, but you could also say that over dependence on technology is not good. I mean, you should always have a backup plan for it, right? So yes, you could mention these points, and I think that should be enough for this answer. And then you could end up, you could conclude by saying that your technology does result into a lot of benefits, but it also comes with certain issues as well. But on an overall level, I mean, technology has played a pivotal role in shaping and improving not only the population but overall the global economy as well. It has been seen with evidence that this has happened, and globally and eventually economies have improved in various ways through technology. Okay, guys. So yes, that's about it. I hope to see you all in the next video. Until then, take care.